If you had to fight a monster that is 10 times your weight, how would you approach the situation? If you're smart, you wouldn't rush into it. You would devise a plan. This is how we approach combat in Outward. Rather than send you flinging a sword at a gigantic monster, the player must find clever ways to gain the upper hand, even when fighting something as mundane as two bandits. The first thing to keep in mind in combat is whether or not your enemy is stable on its feet. At first, your attacks do not stagger the enemy, so you need to poke at their defense until the pressure makes them flinch. Once they lose their footing, an opportunity opens up and you can land a vicious combo without fear of retaliation. Early on, you don't know a lot of tricks to gain the upper hand. However, you can use tools and switch equipment. You could, for instance, coat a weapon with poison, place a trap on the floor, and start the fight from a safe distance with a couple of arrows. Apply the poison by placing a few hits with your melee weapon, then wait defensively behind a shield until your enemy collapses. Eventually, you will meet trainers and gain the opportunity to learn skills and even unlock magic. We wanted magic to have a more ritualistic approach, in which we deconstruct spell casting step by step. The very first spell you learn is the Spark, a small flame that barely hurts anything, and on its own is probably more useful as a way to light up a fire than for combat. Yet, this spark of flame is more useful than it appears. Let's say you found a mana stone while mining, converted it to a firestone using alchemy, and knew how to expand that firestone to create a magical fire sigil, and then cast spark while standing in this fire sigil. Then you would have done the whole process to cast a fireball. This may sound impractical in a combat situation, but you can make firestones or buy them from an alchemist in preparation for what's ahead. You could even cast a sigil in anticipation of a fight and lure your enemies to your spot, then dodge in and out of your sigil to quickly throw multiple fireballs, as long as your sigil is active. This approach of decomposing your actions in multiple steps also applies to combat skills. For instance, a warrior that draws strength from her rage would need to either use a skill to fall into a deep state of rage or consume potions to attain the same effect, increasing the impact of her hits and thus decrease stability of her foes faster. Even better, she could consume her rage in a powerful twofold attack using the feral strikes that will leave her foes in pain and bleeding while also causing great damage. While most warrior skills don't use mana, these impressive feats damage a weapon's durability, so it will be wise to bring more than one weapon to ensure you're not stuck fighting with a dull blade by the end of a dungeon raid. There are many predators in the world of Morai, but there are also many tools at your disposal. Not every combat is handled the same, and it will be important to analyze every enemy to find a weakness you can exploit. In Outward, you can't just stand there and attack. You have to find your way of dealing with enemies, and the approach will often be indirect, but when everything happens according to plan, it is immensely gratifying. It is difficult to come by a more potent equivalent of adventuring in real life than going on a trip with nothing but a backpack and pocket change. This is a theme we wanted to explore in Outward. In that regard, the backpack is very emblematic of our game. This piece of equipment will affect your experience as much as your weapon or your armor. Will you pick a large backpack so you can stock up more on your travel, such as a large fur tent, plenty of food, and a cooking pot to be more comfortable? Or will you travel light with only a simple bedroll and find the food and water you need along the way? Backpacks are cumbersome, reducing your movement speed and even preventing you from dodging effectively. So unless you have a very small backpack, you don't want to be caught off guard by creatures. Should you decide to venture in a cave or a bandit hideout, it might be safer to leave your bag behind until the area is secured, keeping only the essentials with you. Once you packed up everything you need, Outward offers 4 vast distinct regions. They all contain hidden secrets, unique creatures, and different obstacles. The Chersonese is a mountainous region close to the sea. The enemies in this area are a little more forgiving, but comes winter, an adventurer needs to find ways to fight off the cold, especially at night. The Enmarkar forest has a temperate climate, but ghosts, beast golems, and well-armed bandits will keep you on your toes. The poisonous water of the Halun Marsh makes it wise to carry a healthy supply of antidotes with you as you navigate its islands. The Abrasar Desert's intense heat during the day and vicious cold during the night makes it inhospitable for all but the most prepared travelers. Since traveling is its own experience, Outward doesn't navigate those regions for you. There is no magical objective compass. In fact, the map doesn't even tell you where you are. To find your way, you must look at the landmarks and estimate your position yourself. And as you travel, you will come across many dungeons. The outdoors are vast, and you can avoid most encounters if you're careful. But once you set foot in a secret lair or a dark cavern, danger lurks around every corner. Bring your lantern, your sword, and make sure you are well fed and well rested before facing off the worst that the land of Ori has to offer. For many, the allure of medieval fantasy RPGs is so obvious, so captivating. This idea of living in another world, somewhere more hostile, more magical, more intense than our real lives, is a powerful escape. While visiting such a world, we want to believe. The illusion breaks down when the game reminds you constantly that it is a game. That is what happens when the game is always giving you freebies. Go venture in the wilds, but don't worry, you're half dragon. You're the chosen one. You're the lost child from a prophecy. Nah, we want to scale back things so that you live in a fantasy world, but from the perspective of an ordinary human being, with no superpower and no game developer guiding you at every step. This is a game for those who aren't afraid of being vulnerable, for those who want to own up to their mistakes and feel the sting of their failures. Who said that adventuring should be easy? Who said that you, the player, can't do it on your own? Even ordinary people can do extraordinary things. In order to make the adventuring life more human, the threat of combat shouldn't be your only worry. Hunger, thirst, exhaustion, these are all part of the deal when you travel untamed lands. It also wouldn't make sense for a normal human being to get out in the cold of winter without furs and have a warm fire. It wouldn't make sense to run around the desert in a large, fully plated armor either. This is part of the vision behind Outward. The story isn't about you being some central mythical figure. The obstacles aren't about single-handedly crushing armies. That's not what adventuring is about. Outward is about making you live in a medieval fantasy world that feels more real, more human. Yeah, it's harder, but we, the devs, we know you're smart. We trust that you can do it, and the rewards will be earned, not handed to you.